If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 388 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the Andy Townsend of Irish MMA Media, Graham McDonald, as we talk about a very, very interesting week in the world of mixed martial arts. Actually, do you know what? We're not going to be talking about it all, though, because we're talking about Cage Warriors. We want to give that a massive breakdown. That's the biggest card this weekend. We're going to look ahead to UFC 281, because that's a massive card as well, and also a little bit of the European MMA as well for next week. This week's UFC, we have to record a little bit early. There was a few logistical problems and stuff that we couldn't get to. So the lads on the next day takeaways will have you covered or the takeaways, not the next day takeaways anymore. That'll be out Tuesday morning for a full-on recap, and if you have any questions, well, you can send them in for the Q&A. But today, we're going to be looking at Cage Warriors, and we're going to be looking at ahead to UFC 281, the massive card as well. But before we get into all of that, we must tell you that this episode of the podcast is brought to you by our very, very good friends over at Manscaped. Did you know what? Manscaped are in Tesco now, and it's absolutely brilliant that they're in Tesco, and all our Irish fans can check them out in there and get 20% off as well over at manscaped.com with free shipping using that promo code SevereMMA. It's just in time for Christmas now. It's not too far away, Graham. Jesus, we're into November now. We're only 6-7 weeks away from Christmas, not too long now, so it's time to get your crotch looking nice. That means sipping Arthur's Day in the autumn breeze and using Manscaped products to trim your balls with ease. Make sure to swing by Tesco and pick up the Lawnmower 4.0, as I said, or manscaped.com with the promo code SevereMMA for 20% off and a free shipping. You heard it here first, lads. Manscaped is taking over Ireland. Whether you're brand new or already with us at Manscaped, you could use the crown jewel of care for your family jewels, the Lawnmower 4.0. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed and optimized trimmer that makes shaving your favorite time in the bathroom. Man, if you're looking for shaving with the same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it wrong. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth. Absolutely not. Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer features the proprietary Jesus, I fucked that up badly. The proprietary advanced skin safe technology. I've been saying it for about 2 years now. You think I could fucking say it? It's also waterproof, so you can keep escaping even when the weather changes. Did I mention it's wireless charging as well? It's absolutely brilliant. Electromagnetic induction. Battery lasts even longer, so it's absolutely fantastic. Weed whacker. Ear and nose hair trimmer. I was saying there a couple of weeks ago, I lost mine and I actually found it again today and gave it to my father, so he's absolutely delighted. I should have kept it. His birthday's in a couple of weeks and just gave it to him. I think I gave it to him once already for his birthday. I could have given it to him twice, but sure, look, these things happen. The weed whacker is also waterproof and also has that proprietary skin safe technology, nailed it, which helps reduce nags. It doesn't help reduce nags. Nicks, snags, tugs in those delicate holes. So make sure to swing by Tesco and pick up these products for yourself, your father, your brother, even your grandpa. Everyone needs a trim, and what better time to start when the leaves are coming off the branch. So go to manscaped.com or head over to Tesco. Well, you can't do it at Tesco, but you could do it at manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA. You can have a look at them in Tesco, that's what I said, and then order manscaped.com. So yeah, do that. Stop acting the maggot and get the grip with Manscaped. Now available at Tesco Ireland. Right, Graham, let's get straight into it. Oh Lord Almighty, this Cage Warriors card. We're literally recording this just after it in, so we're still kind of hot and bothered here. I think it was. It was one of those cards where the fights were either terrible or brilliant. It felt like this whole card, they were either absolute snoozers and the decisions, or they're absolutely brilliant fights. And you know what? I'll kind of take that rather than a bunch of kind of averagely okay fights. But the main event, Graham. What do you think? The main event was brilliant. You know, obviously the walk-ins, we'll talk about the walk-ins for a second. They took absolutely ages to walk in the first time they fought, and the second time they definitely, maybe it's some kind of, Paul Hughes is trying to play some kind of psychological thing, making his opponent wait or something, or maybe he's just
so relaxed and enjoying the moment or whatever, but it went on a long time. And at the start of the fight, the first round, Paul Hughes kind of was feeling it out a little bit. He maybe was possibly a little bit too relaxed, and maybe possibly, I don't know what your thoughts on it. Well, maybe lost that round. I think that was the closest round of the fight. It could have went either way, really close. But from then on, he just took over and started landing his shots and grew in confidence, and didn't even seem to respect Vucenic's striking as the fight went on. He just seemed to be really comfortable in the pocket, landing his shots, landing knees, mixing it up. When it hit the mat, he was able to scramble to dominant positions, take the back, put the body triangle on, and just dominate the fight, land damage. He cut him open with several, or he cut him open at least twice anyway, with big cuts on the face. Just a really, really dominant performance from Paul Hughes. Like, I thought Paul Hughes was going to win this fight in a really close, maybe a lot of the rounds as close as the first round, but he showed he was on another level tonight. I thought he just, as he grew into the fight, and he just took over, and he just beat Jordan everywhere.
He really did. And I'll say the first part first about the walkouts, because I think I could probably go overboard about the fight itself because I'm so hyped after it. But like the walkouts, the Hughes walkout, I think Hughes, look, I think he tries a bit too hard with that. No, I'm not going to say many bad things about Paul Hughes today because I have a lot of good things coming. But yeah, like Paul Hughes,
he needs a sing-along song or something. If there's a sing-along going or something,
the Grace one was perfect. But didn't that other rap song that nobody in the crowd heard? I don't know. It's probably like some famous Kendrick Lamar song or something. No, but I didn't know it. No one in the crowd knew it, and he was singing. And
we're just old fogies here, but like, yeah, the crowd didn't seem to respond.
They didn't know either. No, it was so. I was like crying, laughing. It was so cringy. It was like, oh my god. But I don't know. But like, I feel like
having to wait around though, like, you know, while your opponent's walking in doing all that, you're probably like, here, fuck's sake, mate, come on, hurry up there, will you?
Yeah, and
he's
I think
singing to the camera and all. You're probably like, he's this fucking guy. Like, it probably does rile you up, in fairness.
I don't think Paul Hughes means to do that. I just think, like, I think he's trying to be cool and failing, but then it actually works in his favor, because I think, like, if you are Vucinic watching that, you're probably thinking, this fucking goofball.
He already doesn't like this guy, and he's like, this fucking guy, how long is he going to take to get into that fucking cage?
And then Vucinic tried to do it to him as well. Now, Vucinic's last walkout was kind of similar, but it was way better and way cooler. This one was pretty good, I think. Like, Vucinic's was better, but I think he tried to slow down to match kind of Hughes' level as well, and, you know, I don't think it worked for him. But look, the walkouts weren't a massive part of it either. But once the fight got started, oh god, it was an absolute epic. I agree with you that Vucinic won the first. It was a very much kind of a feeling out process, and it was a weird one because I got the feeling that this fight changed very, very quickly in terms of my feelings towards it. Because my feeling the first bit, and I've written down here in my notes, very close, Jordan hits a little harder, and I tweeted exactly what you said after the first round. Very close round. I think that's going to be like what I'm saying a lot tonight. You know, I thought it was going to be, you know, maybe 4 close rounds, 1 dominating one and go to a decision, or 5 close rounds, or whatever it might be, or, you know, 3 out of the 5 or whatever. And that was the only real close round we had. You know, the rest of the rounds, there was talks of 10. I think one judge gave like all the rest of the rounds to him. I don't know. I'll have to look at the cards actually, but there was. I
think Ransom gave a second, 4th, and 5th 10-8 to Hughes.
Yeah, so a lot of 10-8s were given in this fight, and, you know, not too undeserved. But my point there about the fight changing from how I was looking at it. So it went from Jordan Vucinic landing a little harder to Paul Hughes landing way harder, from maybe the exact point where he landed that head kick in the start of the second to the fact that it brought the fight to the floor then. And this was, I think there was 2 changing points in this fight. It was this, when he, not just when he landed the head kick, but when Vucinic went for the takedown and the fight went to the floor, and Hughes just dominated the transitions again and dominated the wrestling. Now, you look at that, right, and if you hadn't seen the first fight, or if this was their first fight and that happened, I don't think it'd be a big deal if he just like got the back and dominated that, and then, you know, went to the end of the round or whatever, and we started the next round at 1-1 or whatever. What this showed was Vucinic had went into his last fight, he had won by a submission. Everyone was talking about how he's so much better on the ground now than he once was, and Hughes won't have that advantage. But in this fight, Hughes immediately showed he still had the advantage. And you know what? I think it was an even bigger advantage. He decimated him on the ground. He dominated the transitions. He dominated when he was on top. He took the back and dominated, got the body triangle, dominated. At the end of that round then, he landed a lot of shots and just, took the rest of the round. And it wasn't like, I don't think it was a 10-8. Some people gave it a 10-8. I thought it was close enough. But when the fight got into the third, it was close early. Vucinic was probably landing more, but in the last minute, Hughes landed those big shots again. And even before...
in the last 20 seconds.
In the last 20 seconds as well. But before that, I thought for the last minute, Hughes landed 2 lovely jabs. He landed a knee, and then he landed another knee in that last 20 seconds. And Kutcher, I'm not sure if it was the knee or like I think Ian was saying it was a left hook, right hand after it, as well, that he landed. And like that cut, that was a massive change point. So I think the takedown, the transitions in the in the second round, and that last 20 seconds of the third round just really, really changed it. What did you think of that portion of the fight? Like, usually I say maybe am I reading into something too much in terms of the transitions and win on the ground, but I don't think I am. I think it took away a bit of confidence that Jordan had, and I think it gave Hughes even more confidence to say, right, I'm winning this fight, I'm dominating. And then he kind of transitioned that transition into dominating on the feet as well at times and landing those bigger shots.
Yeah, like, Jordan had kind of clawed his way back into the fight in the third round in a little bit. If he had kind of held on to kind of make that a razor close round either way, that you could have given to him and maybe put him on some cards 2-1 up, and then he's in a really good position. But the way the round ended and the way Hughes kind of cut him open and landed such damaging shots at, as you said, the last minute, or especially in the last 20 seconds, I thought. It seemed to swing the fight comfortably towards Hughes, and from then on it just seemed like a foregone conclusion that this decision was going to Hughes, or he was going to finish the fight, which he didn't really come super close to at any time, but one big shot after a knockdown or something like that, and maybe he could have got the finish. But a really really good performance from Hughes. But Vucinic did try his best to kind of make it a close fight. I kind of thought it was going to be, but he just was outmatched way more than I thought he was going to be going into it. And as you said, like, the improvements that Vucinic had made that were talked about, or mainly due to the submission that you mentioned, Hughes has been over in a different camp as well, working on his game. He's improving fight to fight as well. And, there was moments in the fight where he didn't have it all his own way early on, but I think from that minute, the last minute of the third round onwards, he just really came into his own and really showed flow in his and confidence in his all-round game, and he just dominated. And I think if they could have fought all night and he would have continued dominating, and it's a hard one to take for Jordan, because he obviously had the real belt and had the win over Paul Hughes in the history books, and this is a kind of talked about as who's going to sign for the UFC. So this is a hard one to take for him, I think.
100%. Yeah, like, they're two top prospects. Make no mistake about that. Whoever won, whoever lost tonight, both of them would still be a good fighter afterwards. And we must say that as well, because, like, to the victor goes the spoils. But the person who came out with the loss tonight deserves a lot of credit too. Because
it wouldn't be such an exciting win for Paul Hughes if it was, if he did this to anybody, just a normal Cage Warriors fighter, or like a Cage Warriors champion who is kind of unproven as being the kind of undisputed champion, or undisputed one of the best in the division, or one of the best up and comers or whatever. So, if the praise and the excitement that we have for Paul Hughes' performance is because of how good we know Jordan is and how good he's proved himself to be in Cage Warriors. Yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt, no doubt about that. Well said. And I think, like, you look as well at that fight as we talked through the first 3 rounds, and you talked there about the cut and the big knee and the big left hand at the end of the third round. Like, you look at the way that Hughes started landing these shots early in the fourth and early in the fifth. and the effect they had on Vucinic. Like, look, compared to the first, like I was saying, it looked like Jordan hit a little bit harder, and in the fourth and fifth, it looked like Hughes was the one with the TNT in his right hand.
It looked like Hughes could go all day as well, and that must be a hard thing to, Vucinic taking a lot of damage, and he's looked a bit like he was getting a bit tired, and Hughes is just in his face the whole time, or on his back the whole time, or just dominating the whole time, and it's a difficult position to be in, and he did well to survive positions, but the fourth and fifth round, I could see why they were giving us 10-8s on a couple of the judges' scorecards, because it was pretty dominant, and he was in kind of full defensive mode.
It was just a waterfall for poor old Vucinic, really, in this fight, wasn't it? Because you think about Hughes and, like, how would he get tired in this fight? And there was no real opportunity if you look at the whole fight. Now, look, if something had changed, and, we know how quickly MMA fights can change, but the way it went, like, the end of the winning, getting the takedown in the first, taking the air out of Vucinic, winning in the second, taking the air out of Vucinic after a close first that didn't take too much out of either of them, winning towards the end of the second, then landing the big shots towards the end of the third and cutting him. It's all like downhill waterfall for Jordan Vucinic. Landed loads of shots.
Loads of demoralising moments as the fight progressed.
There was no demoralising moment in the whole fight for Hughes, and that is why he won it. He won the big moments. We always talk about that in other sports, because let's say the game of soccer, it's always like that. Like, if you win a penalty or you don't get a penalty, it's the difference between 0-0 or 1-0, or maybe 1-0 one way or 1-0 the other way. You could go up the field and score the other way around. It's a massive difference, those big moments. But we rarely say that in MMA, because it is a 25-minute fight, or a fight that can end in those one big moment. But to have like 4, 5, 6 big moments throughout the fight and win every single one of them, that is massive for Paul Hughes, and he did. He won all of those big moments against a guy who, in the last fight, they kind of shared the big moments, I suppose, or maybe Hughes probably did win more of the big moments in the first fight, but there weren't as many big moments, and it was a closer fight, and it was more nip and tuck, and that just shows you how much Hughes has actually improved since the first fight, and it is a lot. It really, really is a lot, and that's credit to him, and he's getting through injuries first of all, then, as you said, going out to Killcliff MMA, formerly Sanford MMA, training in FAI, who'll be right up there towards the top for Irish Gym of the Year again, after producing Hughes as the champion here. They do great work, and he's training partners with Joe McColgan and other people as well. A fantastic job. And look, we have to look forward, I suppose, to Paul Hughes going to the UFC. I don't think there's any doubt about it now. You look at some fighters and you say, right, they won the championship, they probably need maybe to defend it, they maybe need 1-2 more fights to get to the UFC. Paul Hughes was in a position a few years ago where people were talking about, Mads Burnell was at the top of the division. Should Paul Hughes kind of bypass that and go straight to the UFC? There was talks of the Dana White Contender Series. Then, when he got to the Vucinic fight, first of all, when he got to the title, then after that, and now he's like, it feels like Paul Hughes, even though he's only 10 fights into his career, it feels like he is a little bit like Paddy Pimblett, because Paddy Pimblett was going to go to the UFC once, going to go to the UFC again, signed back with Cage Warriors. For Hughes, it was injuries, it was the loss, it was a couple of setbacks, and now he's back there again. Like, he is more than ready now. I think it's time. 10 fights into his career, there's lots of lads lower in terms of ability especially, but in terms of experience than Paul Hughes in the UFC at the moment, and I think I really think it's time. Would you like to see him sign straight away, Graham, or would you like to see another bit of experience? The trilogy maybe even?
I think the way he dominated the fight, I think, you could have made a case for, 1-1, let's go again, in terms of Jordan and Paul, but the way the fight went and how dominant it was, I think, it's hard to sell that fight again as having the same jeopardy or having the same unknowing or not knowing what's going to happen. Unpredictability. So I think it's hard to make that again, and I don't think there's any contender in Cage Warriors that people would say, oh, he needs to fight this guy. There's guys on that are in line or whatever, but there's nobody that the UFC are like, oh well, you have to prove yourself against this guy. In my mind, I think he's ready to go to the UFC. I think You know, there was a lot of talk before this about whoever wins goes to the UFC, and sometimes we hear that a lot, you know, around fights like this, and it's just not true at all. But in this case, I do believe that, you know, the UFC matchmakers will be very impressed with that performance. They know how good Jordan is, and you know, he has some top level wins in Cage Warriors. He's a proven entity. He's a known entity. He's a known skill level, and Hughes went out there and dominated him. So, yeah, I think the UFC will be his next fight.
What did you think of the way Hughes won? I know you mentioned it there, but what was the line again that Brad said that Jordan was like a side of beef or something? Was it? It was like
he said his face looks like a side of raw beef.
Yeah, and that if anyone listened didn't see the fight, that tells you all you need to know. Maybe we didn't describe it well enough, but like in that 5th round, Hughes knocked Vucinic down, was on top. He didn't do much, and he was just kind of laying there on top of him after landing a few big shots. But it looked like Vucinic was like on the verge of just like tapping out because he was so beat up. The doctor almost stopped it at the end of the 4th round. It was a destruction. Like I looked at the results here on Sherdog just as I sat down here, and I was like, oh yeah, it went to decision. It felt like a stoppage. It's one of those fights that when it went to decision,
it was done before it was done. Yeah, like, you know,
miles before it was done. Yeah, and like it was one of those ones where if it wasn't a massive championship fight and things like that, and even then, I think like maybe a towel should have come in because there was no coming back for Vucinic with 3.5 minutes left in that 5th round.
I think if he started taking like big damage on the ground or something,
Goddard definitely would have stopped it, but he didn't.
Yeah, I think Goddard would have. Like Goddard was kind of loitering over them at a couple of times, and he just didn't really find the moment. And I was okay with it not being stopped, but yeah, you know, coaches probably should throw the towel in a lot more than they do, but we very rarely see it in MMA, and it would have been a surprise to me to see it here.
100%. And just I suppose a last word on Paul Hughes. I remember being at his debut in BAMA 28 back in the February 2017, and looking at it at that time, and I pulled up a tweet that I said, I was like, remember the name, and you know, that the impressiveness of that, the fight, you know, he fought Stephen O'Neill outside the Cage Warriors, was kind of onto Cage Warriors and onto Cage Warriors and onto Cage Warriors about signing him. He got one fight in Cage Warriors and then he was trying to get re-signed again. He was supposed to fight in Ireland. It didn't work out, and remember they were kind of rowing over that at Cage Warriors 110. Then he fought at 112 and at 116 against Pineda, and then Steve, then he lost to Vucinic, but came back against Hendon and Sharia, and now this one as well. You know, what is it, 5 years, 5.5 years after he made his debut, just being a phenomenal fighter, really exciting fighter. It's been a joy to watch his journey to the UFC, and hopefully this is the end of the journey to the UFC and the start of another one. You know, a tremendous fighter. You know, obviously we were laughing at the walkout, and it was, you know, he feels like at this stage a bit of a throwback fighter to like that era of fighters who used to always say, I'm the best in the world, and I feel like that's kind of gone away a bit because it became a bit passe or something, and you know, that's certainly, I honestly, I don't think people like it that much, but he believes that it works for him, and I don't give a shit about that if he keeps fighting like he fights the way he fought tonight, because it was absolutely fantastic. He's a brilliant fighter, and long may he reign on top of the Cage Warriors division until he gets signed for the UFC, and we can see him in there and get challenged again. So I'm looking forward to that. Congratulations to Paul Hughes, FA, and all the lads. Go on.
Just before you move on there, it was a bit weird. I don't know if maybe I'm being barbaric here or something, but Goddard was giving out to Paul Hughes saying, "Oh, watch where you put your chin, watch where you put your face, keeping it away from the cut." It's like, should he really have to mind where he puts his head because you've been sliced open? That's not his concern. It's your fucking problem. No,
he said the gloves as well, like, and you know, don't be sticking the gloves.
It's not my fault he's leaking. Like, you know what I mean?
He did say the fingers.
I'm not like adjusting my position to like make this guy more comfortable. Like,
he did say the fingers at one stage, and that which is
that was fine.
That was fine.
Keep the fingers out of the cut. That's fine. But like, watch where you're putting your head. Watch your chin. Like, what? What are you talking about?
I did think that was weird. Like, Mark Gwynn has stopped the fight at that stage. Like, if you think it's so bad and it's so barbaric that a guy can't reposition himself, I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of that, but you know, the judging was fantastic tonight. The referee, and I don't know, there's a bit of there's nothing worse than when referees like get involved in a fight too much, and there was a little bit of that tonight. But overall, we can't complain too much. The officiating was pretty amazing. But
you know, there was some like, for Cage Warriors usually expect a pretty good level of production, but there was some really bad production. Like those intro videos on all but the main event, horrible. You couldn't hear a word the fighters were saying with the music and the mix. It was terrible. And some of the camera work, like usually you wouldn't even notice the camera work at the Cage Warriors, which means it's very good. But this time there was some angles and some shots that were just bad. I don't know what was going on there.
It was very glitchy at the start as well for like almost the first fight, and no fucking interviews. Come on, Cage Warriors. Like, we give Cage Warriors,
like, you know, they're saying this is the biggest rematch like in Cage Warriors history, and it probably is. Like, I agree with that. Like,
I said it too.
Definitely hype that, but you know, and you don't even have an interview with the guy when he fucking dominates. Ridiculous. Come on. Jesus Christ.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And like, it's not as if they didn't have time or anything. They were showing the crowd, Paul Hughes and the crowd and all afterwards. Like, there was loads of time.
Yeah, 100%. Like, play a replay of Paul Hughes, jumping up in the cage, leave dead air for 15 seconds, have Brad Wharton walk in, interview him, leave dead air for another 15 seconds till Brad Wharton walks back to his chair. It's not a big deal. No one's going to care about that. You can absolutely do that. And then, you can go and you can do the interview backstage again if you want to do that. It feels like they only want to do the interviews backstage for some reason. I don't know, maybe some people can guess why they want to do that, but I hate it. Cage Warriors, you need to change that. I love Cage Warriors. They're the best matchmaking. They have brilliant commentary. I thought Redzer was actually really good as well tonight. You know, Redzer, I hear the Dublin accent. I'm like, no, here we go. I'm listening to fucking you all week, and Andy, and all the Dublin accents all week. And I have another one, but I thought he was really good. And Brad is always fantastic. But
sorry for cutting across you. Sorry for cutting across you, Brad. Sorry for cutting across you, Brad.
He only did it once, and he apologised like 3 times. Yeah, to be fair. But
again, I'm sorry. I could have crossed you.
I'm sorry there, man. I'm so sorry. But come on, Cage Warriors, get it fucking together with the interviews. Like, Caelan Loughran tried also get a new MC as well, if you could. But Caelan Loughran tried to take the fucking mic off the MC because he couldn't get an interview. It's literally becoming laughable at this stage. Like, oh, come on, lads. You do everything so well. And
even if you just keep it to like a 1 minute interview, like literally like 2-question interview.
Come on. Anyway, let's move on, talk about a few more of the fights. James Sheehan against Jamie Richardson. Look, a close fight compared to the main event. I think all fights are close fights, but very close. It was one of those fights that round 1 was close. Richardson definitely won round 2, and Sheehan definitely won round 3. I thought Richardson landed the much better shots in round 2. I thought he was hitting harder. To the naked eye, it was probably always a close round, but I don't think so, to be honest. Round 3, the pressure and the takedowns from Sheehan, landed about 40 liver punches with the arm trapped around the back.
At the start, I was like, the first couple, I was like, that's a waste of time. But then he landed about 150 of them. I thought it looked like when he had his arm stuck behind his back. I was like, you could see him like making faces and shit. I was like, Jesus, this is actually affecting him here. And I was thinking about it like, Jesus, if you get punched in the exact same spot like 100 times, it probably fucking does really hurt. Like,
yeah, Richardson eventually got out, but James Sheehan just held on to him. And
he was showing the judges.
He was,
face, I thought that like, this is damaging me, because I was thinking 100%. This is damaging, and he kind of confirmed it. So like, you need a better poker face for that. Anyway.
100%. So it all came down to the first round, and really close. It could have gone either way. Solid judging though. All 3 judges gave it to. I haven't actually looked at it. I assume all 3 judges gave it to James Sheehan. I gave it to him as well. I thought he did win, and I thought he just did enough. And look, another very good performance, solid performance against a tough matchup against a guy who's a lot more experienced than him. We talked about it being a step back up, I suppose, last week, and he dealt with it very, very well. 1-1 and going into the third, and then winning the third the way he did it. That's a good performance.
Yeah, like, it was a good performance, but I thought it was a bit of a, I don't know, both were a bit tentative. Like, it wasn't just him, maybe that played into it. Both were a bit tentative in the first round, which led to a really close round, and, it looked after the second round that, like, he has, the tide is maybe turning a little bit against him, against Sheehan, but yeah, he definitely kind of loosened up in the third round, and, I thought clearly won that round, and obviously that control with the grip behind the arm behind the back and those shots to the body and the grappling and domination was enough to win that. But yeah, I thought, like, you know, at the start there was a bit of maybe a bit too tentative and a bit too unwilling to let his shots go. But as the fight went on, he obviously kind of grew into the fight.
Yeah, I think he is trying to be like a very good, straight up technical fighter. And he's achieving that,
yeah.
But that's.
You think if he mixed in a couple of even takedown attempts, even if he doesn't get them in the first round, you know, just I don't know.
It's, you know, something we're seeing an awful lot recently, and it's like lads not going for their initial game plan. Initial is the wrong word. Lads not going for game plan A at the very start of the fight and kind of having a close round and then going for it like maybe the second or third. Now, I'm not sure which guy did that here necessarily, but if you look at the third round, the takedown from James Sheehan was there and it was very, very effective, you know, not even necessarily the takedown, but the pressure on top and that part of his game. It looked to me like a guy who won a fight while still learning, you know, while still on his way up, while not being the finished product at all. And how could you be, I suppose, so eight fights into your career, but still to beat someone like Jamie Richardson at that stage of your career, I think it's very, very good. It's very promising, like, because you can't help but look at James Sheehan. I think it was actually 5 years ago since he had his debut. It doesn't feel like it's that long, but you look at him then and you look at him now, and the pause, I suppose, of him, his ability, but also his comfort at doing it is. It has improved so much. It's really, really good, and a credit again, like to his team, Team Rhino, and all the, you know, Siri and Redzer and everyone, his brother Graham, they do a fantastic job, and obviously Andy Ryan as well.
Yeah, it was a great win. Like, I'm not saying that, but you know, it was a step up against an experienced guy. That was Jamie Richardson's 18th or 19th fight. So, you know, obviously he's been in there with some good guys like Matthew Bonner and Ian Gary, but they were kind of at the start of their careers when he went in there, and he kind of took a step. Sheehan kind of took a step down after that and improved a lot in between fights, as we mentioned, but. You know, obviously, when you make a step up against a more experienced guy, maybe that made him a bit more wary of letting his game go. And as I said, he kind of grew into the fight, and it's perfect because you get the win, you keep your streak going, and you obviously in a co-main event for the first time, and you also have loads of things you can go back to the gym and work on and implement for your next fight. And as I said on the podcast last week, we've seen him improve massively in between fights, even in short periods. And you know, I think there's a lot that he still has to improve on, obviously, and he's still early in his career, as you said. But yeah, I think, you know, really another really good performance from him, another really good win. He's you know, after a kind of a bit of a rocky start to his pro career, you know, you kind of. People aren't really paying attention to you, and you kind of fly under the radar a bit. But now he's definitely massively on the radar, and you know, people will be wanting to see what he does next. And you know, I'm sure a lot of people will be trying to get into a fight with him.
100%, yeah. So like we have the interim title fight coming up next week, and then obviously Rhys McKee is there as well. So you know, he's probably, let's say if we have that interim title fight, the winner of that fight's Rhys McKee. You know, if he has one more fight, he's probably.
I don't want to, like, I don't like when Irish guys fight each other ever, really, to be honest, outside of like the UFC. But in this case, I think it's better for James to maybe play a little bit slower than jumping into a title shot against Rhys McKee. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, it might be the right way to go, but we'll see anyway. The next two fights in, Lee Chadwick versus Mateusz Bukauskas and Xavier Cedras against Mehdi Ben Lakhtar. You know, not two classics. I wouldn't say. We're not going to spend too long looking at them. What I would say is two good wins for two lads coming back from injuries. You know, Chadwick could have won that fight. It was a very, very close fight. That third round was close, but you know, Bukauskas won it, and Ben Lakhtar, you know, Xavier Cedras only have one fight in the last 6 years. Did very, very well. So look, we'll probably see Mehdi pretty close to the title talk, I suppose, after this. And for Bukauskas, they don't really have a 205 pound division right now, so we'll probably, you know, see Cage Warriors maybe sign someone up just to fight him, and we'll see where he goes from there. But yeah, fair play to the two of them boys coming back. But to open up the main card, we had Caelan Loughran versus Luke Shanks. And I'll tell you what, if there was anyone out there doubting Caelan Loughran, they won't be fucking doubting him now. What a great performance here. I questioned whether he'd have to kind of change his game to beat the likes of Luke Shanks and to improve into championship material in Cage Warriors or to go to the UFC or whatever it might be. And that question has been answered here in that he doesn't have to fucking change it, because he fought with his static, in the middle of the cage, low striking game, and he dominated this fight with it. Looked really, really good. Still at times it looks like he's like wide open to get punched, but somehow he doesn't. And he just he looked
I was
so
thinking that
good.
during the fight. I'm like, his head is actually massive as well. Like, so it's a bigger target to hit.
He'll kill you.
Maybe a little bit more head movement work as he goes up the levels, but you know, for the performance on the night, he was absolutely brilliant. You know, Luke Shanks, we've talked about him before, and the level of opponents he's been in there with, and some of the wins on his record, and you know, this is definitely was another step up for Galen, and he passed the test with flying colours again. You know, that's 3 wins in quick succession in Cage Warriors, really impressively, all finishes. You know, he doesn't seem to want to take the slow road. He's very confident in himself. You know, Luke Shanks is a really big win in the division. There's not much turning back after that. You're in the kind of upper echelon of the Cage Warriors division and title picture after a win over Luke Shanks in such a impressive fashion. So it's kind of hard to stop the train at this stage.
I don't think you need to stop it either. Like, if you beat Luke Shanks,
usually like at 7-0 after kind of, you know, only really having you know, 3 or 4 high level fights, you know, fighting guys with negative records at the very start of your career, fair enough. Like, you know, you're getting a payday, you're getting experience, and he had some good wins at amateur as well against guys who had a lot of fights as well. So it wasn't as if he just done that throughout his amateur career or start of his pro career. So yeah, people criticized him about that in the past, but you know, it's very hard to criticize him now. You know, you may not like him. Some people seem to not like him or whatever, but maybe that's because he's brash and confident and kind of says what he thinks, and you know, that rubs some people the wrong way. But as long as you're going out there and putting performances on like that, and people can't really say much, and you know, the title obviously would be the title shot next would be what he'd want, but you know, it's hard to deny him. You know, Cage Warriors, are they going to put on that Irish show? If they are, a title shot on it, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would agree. Hopefully they will put it on, but you never know. I really like the way Kellen Loughlin talks and fights. It just feels like...
Yeah, no, I do too, but you know, that kind of brash attitude does kind of rub some people the wrong way.
As we both know, Graham. I would say.
It's an Irish thing. It is an Irish thing. You don't understand if you lived here.
I thought you were going to say the big northern head in him as well there. He's
a bit of a Harry Maguire head on him, you know.
Jesus, no. Oh, come on, take that.
I'll take that back. That's way too far. Sorry.
That was way too far.
I apologize.
He also walked out the fucking ooh-ah up the ra, which was like hilarious, but like also like, oh, is he gonna get in trouble? So it's like, are the mainstream media gonna get the fucking gonna get winded at him? They probably won't, because
they refuse to pay any attention to it. So.
Yeah, it'd be grand. But look, the performance was really good. He spoke to Ian during the week. I love watching these interviews. They're absolutely fantastic, and Ian did a great job with it over on the SevereMMA YouTube. And he was talking about, and it's interesting because you've talked about this before as well, but being backstage and just looking around and seeing everyone is kind of nervous, and you're just there kind of and you have ease, and everyone else is the weight of the world on his shoulder. And he was kind of saying that's what separates me from everyone else, and his performances kind of show that, because you come in and look at him and he's like just landing straight right down the middle, fighting out of his stance immediately. You know, he had Luke Shanks back for most of the round, almost rear naked choked him, and then he rubbed his hair at the end of round 1 and I'm like, this guy does not give a single solitary fuck. He really doesn't. He just really doesn't. Came out in the second, dominated again. Shanks almost got the guillotine though, actually, so he didn't completely dominate. Shanks almost had him, but Shanks stayed, Kellen Loughlin stayed composed and got out of it fairly quickly and got back on top then, and there was big ground and pound. The finish, I think the angle that it was at, it looked like it was an early stoppage, and I was like, well, what's going on here? But then they showed a second angle, and it was so weird. I've never seen a fight stoppage look so different, that it looked a good stoppage on the second angle, because there was like 5-6 shots. Loughlin throws his ground and pound really weird, and do you know what it was? I think, Graham, maybe you'll know this better than me, because this is kind of your job. were the microphones in the cage like off? I could, like, he was throwing loads of shots and it felt like he was barely throwing them because I couldn't hear him. Like, I couldn't hear the shots being landed like the ground and pound.
I don't know what the acoustics were like, because Brad on the commentary was saying this is the loudest atmosphere or the craziest atmosphere or something along those lines in my 10 plus years of Cage Warriors. But you couldn't really, you know, you could hear it was loud, but you couldn't really pick it up that well on the broadcast. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to get it over. But yeah, I think the production, as I mentioned earlier, on the whole show just wasn't great, I don't think. And I don't know what was going on there. Somebody knew or something. I don't know what's going on, but you know, we kind of get used to, you know, you don't really notice it when it's really good. You just get used to it, the production being really, really good, and when it isn't, you know, that's when you notice it. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what was going on there, but I think it could have been a factor.
Yeah, nevertheless, though, a very, very good win for Caelan Loughran, and he moves on. Like, he's going to have to get a big name towards the top of that division. Is it going to be a title shot? I don't know what it's going to be, but he's going to have to get a big name there next, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. So if you're an Irish MMA fan, you maybe didn't watch this card or something, and let's say Paul Hughes is going to the UFC, Caelan Loughran is the guy. He is the next guy coming up from Ireland to watch, and obviously we have, you know, Reese and many others as well, but he's the guy. Very good performance. The prelims then, really, really great night for Team KF here, with the two Shelley brothers and James Webb getting the win. First of all, on James Webb, just a much higher pace from him. He looked in phenomenal condition, like a fucking 12 pack. I've never seen James Webb and looking in this sort of condition. He almost got the arm triangle in round 2, but went on and won the decision. Very, very good performance from him. Ryan Shelley, you know, dominated against Josh Reed. Reed tried to wrestle early, but Shelley stayed very, very calm. There was a bit of striking. Reed went fighting kind of for a takedown. Again, calm from Shelley, but he got on top, got the back, rear naked choked out Josh Reed in the first round. You know, for a guy who is known as, I suppose, a stand-up fighter, a taekwondo guy. I really love the two Shelley brothers, their transitions. I think Ryan Shelley's even better than Adam, with all due respect to the both lads. I love his transitions. I love his ability to kind of stop the takedown and land on top, and he did that a couple of times here. Very, very good. And then
Adam, when you talk about the Shelley brothers there, I think you're right. Ryan's jiu-jitsu and grappling looks more developed. I think Adam looked a little bit unsure. Yes. There was a couple of times where he could have put the hooks in maybe and taken the back, but he just kind of hesitated or didn't want to do it. But obviously, you know, these guys are strikers and they're still developing their grappling game. But Ryan showed great confidence in his all-round game. You know, sometimes when you're a striker and you're coming in trying to learn grappling and you're in against the kind of most experienced, most kind of high-level guy you fought in your career, in Josh Reed, it's easy to kind of, okay, I'm going to keep the strike and I'm not going to get involved in these grappling exchanges. But he showed great confidence in his ability, and, you know, it paid off because obviously he got the rear naked choke and he made it look easy. You know, you wouldn't know that, you know, he hadn't been grappling until a few years ago.
100%. Yeah, and it was a very good performance, and you know, he moves on in that division as well. A very close fight, obviously, the last time, but stays undefeated and gets you know, gets, I suppose, up towards the title there as well. And then Adam Shelley, as you said, a bit scrappy. Kind of a lot of holding each other against the cage. El Hadji and I, not great. As you said, Graham, I was thinking about what you said as well.
And Hadji, he got a couple of takedowns, but he didn't do anything with them. And then at the very end of the fight,
then like 4 shots.
He threw 3 or 4 strikes, but only one of them actually landed before the bell. But 2 or 3 of them landed after the fucking fight. I was like, Jesus, mate, where was this during the fight?
Yeah, if he'd done that during the fight, he might have won. Like,
yeah, these are close enough rounds. Like, if he had a little bit of ground and pound here and there, a couple of shots, but he just didn't. Yeah, but obviously Adam Shelley is, you know, as I mentioned there, he's still developing as a fighter, but it's a good win, an important win for him. He climbs to 3-2 now, and, you know, he landed some nice elbows, and obviously he's a very good striker as well. You could see on the feet that he had a massive advantage, and as he gains confidence and as his all-round game develops like his brother, I'm sure he'll step up the levels, and be interesting to see where both of them go. But it was good for both of them to get the win on the same card. You know, if your brother goes out there on the first fight of the night and loses, it might affect you a bit when you're fighting later against Josh Reed, you know, your mental state probably isn't as good as when your brother's gone out there and got a good win. So
that's true.
Great night for the Shelley brothers.
Yeah, and good, as you said, good to get back to winning ways. But yeah, look, it was a great night for Team KF. A great night at the top of the card, I suppose, for FAI. But on the undercard, they had a couple of losses. Obviously, the one with James Webb with Paddy McCurry. But, you know, he made a good account of himself. Only his third fight into his career. A lot of people were, you know, writing off James Webb, I suppose, going into that. And, you know, McCurry, I think a lot of people were saying as well, like, if this fight happened in 2 or 3 years,
I don't know what people were writing off. People were saying, I think it's going to be more close, and you may look at the records and look at the kind of level of opponents.
Still, that's a bit disrespectful at the same time to a guy who's 13, 14 fights into his career fighting a guy with only 2 fights, you know?
You know, if people are looking at it, why is a former champ or experienced top level guy in the promotion fighting a guy who's 2-0? But we were kind of like, people were, I think, more saying, you know, this is not as lopsided as you may look at the topology or the Sherdog records and think. It was
short notice as well, so like, to be fair, he was supposed to fight.
And McCurry did have his moments as well.
He did, especially in the third round. Like, look, definitely is still a good prospect, as is Sean McCormack, who took on my guy Oban Elliott, who put on a very good performance, a lot of wrestling. This was the type of fight, I think, for Oban. He just kind of had to get the win here. It was up at middleweight. He's not going to be fighting a middleweight. I think there's probably more chance of him dropping back down to lightweight than there is of going up to middleweight again, especially if he gets to the UFC. But he's 7-2 now. He's another guy that can't be far away from title. And you know what, Graham? A little bit of matchmaking here. How about Oban Elliott versus James Sheehan? How about that, a welterweight?
Ooh, yeah, definitely. It makes sense. You know, it lines up. Both of them don't seem to have, you know, didn't pick up too many injuries or get concussed or anything like that. So the timeline lines up and makes a lot of sense to me.
That's the one. I must tweet that out now before anyone else robs it. But that'll be a
tough fight for James as well. You know, Owen looked really good again. He's very well rounded, and you know, it's no easy fight for either guy, and it's definitely a very interesting one. And we would really get to see where both guys are.
Yeah, 100%. The other fight arguably, maybe not fight of the night, but a very, very good fight and a very good performance from Harry Hardwick, who beat Steve Amiable. A bit of showboating in here where he maybe could have finished the fight.
Cringy, or I don't know. Is that just me, or
no,
he was trying too hard? He did it once, so I was like, all right, fair enough. And then he started doing it again with the hands behind the back, and it's like, oh, mate.
Brad was even kind of taking the piss out of him in the commentary. Yeah, but look, a very, very good fight. And I think the best performance of Harry Hardwick's career that I've seen. You know, he's kind of not to go full Sean Grandy here or anything, but he was kind of living in the shadow of his brother, I suppose, for a while there recently after he became the champion. Yeah. But he could
Amiable, like, you know, at the start of the first round, he was landing a few shots. It looked like he was landing some pretty powerful shots, but Harry Hardwick just kind of overwhelmed him and took over the fight. He overcame a little bit of adversity there, but then in the end, Amiable showed kind of great determination or great will to not get put away. He was in a lot of trouble a lot of times, and you know, as you might kind of hinted at there, maybe if he had not been playing up to the crowd or showboating or whatever, he may have been able to get the finish at a couple of stages. But yeah, Amiable didn't want to go away, so maybe he wouldn't have. But going forward, you don't want to. You want to make sure of these fights. You want to show no mercy. You don't want to be messing around to the crowd. But besides that, really, really good performance from Harry Hardwick.
Indeed, 100%. Right, let's move on. Look, as I said, if you want to hear about the UFC, we are not doing that this week. Head on over to the Q&A or the takeaways, which will be out for free for everyone on Thursday. Harry and Spencer are going to go through that. But we're going to look ahead to next week's UFC. Next week's Cage Warriors, first of all. Cage Warriors 146 that we're on Cage Warriors. I'll have a preview coming out for this over in Sherdog, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it more. But a lot of very, very, very good prospects for this. Let me just run through a few on the way up. Adam Cullen and Luke Riley, both out of Paddy Pimblett's gym, Next Generation over in Liverpool. Cullen 5-0, Luke Riley 4-0. I think Luke Riley is very, very good. So definitely keep an eye out for both of them. Aaron Abbey as well at 125. Great story he has coming, you know, through his illness to still be a really good professional fighter. He's fighting Stipe Beric. James Hinden is on the card, who's always there or thereabouts. You know, in the title picture, he's 6-2 and he's 2 losses were to Hughes and Vucinic. So he can't be too far away, especially if one or both of them goes to goes to the UFC. Same can be said for Samuel Bark. He beat Tobias Harila, if people don't remember, last time out, who everyone was talking about as the next title contender. So if he wins that against Shoaib Yusuf, he could be on his way up there as well towards that. Everyone knows I'm a massive fan of Manny Akpan. He's fighting Dean Truman. Big step up there at 145. That's a great fight altogether. I love that. Lucas Capera, who fought the champ at 155 last time out, he's fighting Aaron Johnson this time as well. Adam Wilson versus Reese McHugh, a few more fights as well on it. But the top 2 fights, the 185 pound middleweight title is on the line in the main event. The 170 pound interim welterweight championship, which Reese McKee holds the full belt of, is on the line in the co-main event, and that's Jimmy Wallhead against Matthias Figlak. Graham, what do you think of that fight? Wallhead, obviously, I suppose the old head, Figlak 7-1 now. His brother's in the UFC. Feels like it's kind of his time to take that next step, but it's not going to be that easy against Judo Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy's a really experienced guy. He's fought all over the place against everybody for how long has he been fighting for? Since 2005. That's a long time to be in the game. He's 38. It's kind of old for MMA, but in terms of his fights and how many wars he's been in, I'd say he's a lot older than that. So yeah, he's definitely a really experienced guy, and he knows all the tricks, but he has a lot of the wear and tear, and it seems to me like, Figlak's kind of the next generation, and it seems like it's his time to go out there and beat Jimmy Wallhead for the interim championship, and kind of propel himself into the UFC kind of talk and things like that. But Jimmy Wallhead, it's kind of his last chance, so he'll want this a lot as well. But it's an interesting fight. It'll show us where Figlak is. I expect him to go out there and get it done, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Jimmy Wallhead makes this a really difficult fight for him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I would pick Figlak to win, but I think Wallhead will make it tough. He is very, very tough, and Figlak will, I think he'll need to bring it all to win that fight. Then the main event, Christian Eri Duncan against Marian Dimitrov. I went and watched a bit of Dimitrov. This is his Cage Warriors debut, but the Indian does this, I remember I asked the Indian before, why don't you have rankings? And he was like, people, and he gave an answer, I suppose. People come and go from Cage Warriors all the time and sign for UFC, so it's very hard. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And not even ranking, sorry, just a roster. And he was like, it'd be very hard for me to just bring in guys from nowhere and give them a title shot. Then I was like, well, that's true too.
Trying to give Indian even more work to do.
Dimitrov, look, he did it with Matthias Frederick against James Webb, and he's doing it again now at 185. Dimitrov is very good. He hits hard. He can wrestle. A lot of his fights in a cage or in a ring, so it'll be interesting to see how he fights in a cage. And I'm sure he has fought some in a cage, but all the fights I saw him were in the ring. And he's fighting Christian Eri Duncan, who, one of the top prospects in Cage Warriors at the moment. It's hard to believe he's only 6-0. He looks so good recently.
Yeah, 23 fights at amateur.
Really, yeah. He's
17 wins, 5 losses.
Yeah,
so
a lot of experience.
Yeah, a lot of experience outside of his pro career.
Yeah, 100%, and a very, very good fighter too. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'd probably pick Christian Eri Duncan to win that, but it's a big test against Marian Dimitrov there in that one. Before, UFC 281 as well next week, but just quickly before that, Cage Warrior 76 as well. Our guy Sean Denny will have a preview out in that, but there is the interim
Cage Warrior 76.
Sorry, KSW. Did I say Cage Warrior? You can't talk. KSW. Sebastian Rakowski, I probably pronounced that wrong, against Saladin Parnas in the main event. Very, very good. Tom Breeze is on the card against Paul Paulak, and our very own Henry Fadipa is on the card as well against Alex Omzinowski, whose name I fucked up there because I don't have Sean Denny's pronunciations, which he sends to me here as well. So very, very interesting card there, and I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Adrian Bartkovsky is also on that 12-0 Uber prospect coming up at welterweight. He could be next in line for the belt vacated by Soldish if he wins that. So interested, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the Chasing Pack. And actually, we're going to have Sean Denny on the next episode of the Chasing Pack as well for an Eastern European segment. So look out for that. Shawnee does absolutely great work along with Ian and Andy and Harry and the rest of the lads for SevereMMA as well. So fair play to everyone there. Right, Graham, UFC 281. Finally, let's talk about it here for the next 10 minutes. So we will obviously have the big preview coming out during the week. Harry Williams, Harry Powell, one of the best guys in the world at breaking down these cards, along with Ian, who does a fantastic job hosting and breaking down himself, as well as Spencer, who tells the stories very well, and sometimes I jump in as well. So check that out in our YouTube channel on Thursday evening. It usually comes out. So 2 title fights here, Graham, middleweight title and 115 pound title, probably the 2 most boring champions in the UFC at the moment. In those 2 title fights, Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. Are you buying the Wolf tickets, Graham? Is it going to be a good fight? Is it going to be exciting? Or is it going to be another Adesanya bore fest?
It's probably going to be, it's probably not going to be very exciting, but there is, if Adesanya is to win, it's probably not going to be very exciting, but there is a small chance, higher than anybody else I think he's fought in the UFC, chance that he gets knocked out here. Having been knocked out before by this guy is a mental thing. I know it's a different sport, but it's definitely going to play on your mind, and they've lost to him as well by decision, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is also, he's been in there before with this guy. He's not exactly a wrestler, Adesanya, but he definitely is a much more well-rounded mixed martial artist, and should have more than enough here to win in kind of undesirable fashion for the fans and for piss Dana White off. But if he does that, that's probably his best way to win, and he's not really afraid of getting booed or pissing people off, as long as he goes out there and wins. That's obviously the main thing. And I don't think he's too worried about going out there and making this a firefight and giving the fans what they want. But obviously that's what Alex is going out there to try to do. So every round starts on the feet, and Adesanya is gonna strike with him. He's not gonna go out there and suddenly become a really good double legger or a single legger or a trip artist. He's not gonna completely change up his game because this guy's a kickboxer.
Who are you talking about there? You talking about Pereira or Adesanya? I think Adesanya could wrestle. I think it's a very high possibility.
He might mix it in, but I don't think he's going to go out there and just try to wrestle him. There's going to be striking exchanges. It's not going to be Alex Pereira
in an Adesanya fight. Striking exchanges.
Yeah, come on. In all seriousness, there is going to be opportunities for things to go wrong here for Adesanya, but obviously I think Adesanya is the favorite here, and he should win it. And if he does kind of fight the way people don't want him to fight, it's probably the best way to go, and it's probably the easiest route to victory for him. But I think there's definitely a chance of him getting tagged here, and if he does, obviously that changes everything. And there is a few kind of mental factors, as I mentioned, playing into it that could impact the fight as well. So if somebody's shooting in for takedowns, they're not really used to doing that, he could catch a big knee or something as well. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion like maybe you do.
I don't necessarily think it's a foregone conclusion, right? What I think here is there a chance that Alex Pereira in a fight with Israel Adesanya can come in and knock him out with a big shot? Yes, we've seen that in a kickboxing bout. Do you know who knows that? Israel Adesanya. And Israel Adesanya fights so safe in all his fights to avoid guys like Jared Cannonier that he'll put on like a really boring fight. You think he's going to go in and have any exchanges with Alex Pereira knowing he has the power to knock him out? Not a hope. There's no way that...
But he's going to have to, if he's going to win the fight. He's going to have to throw punches or kicks.
Does he? Did you watch the Yoel Romero fight?
Come on, in all seriousness. I know he didn't...
No, he don't. I'm deadly serious. That is Israel Adesanya's MO.
You have to step in and take at least some risk at some stage.
Tell that to Izzy, Graham. Watch these fights. Okay. But he don't. I'm actually not joking.
I know what you're saying, but you're going a bit over the top. Yeah.
I don't think I am. I genuinely don't think I am. He kicks the leg from the outside and throws a few safe jabs on the outside and doesn't do anything. And you know what?
Are there safe jabs against Alex Pereira here?
Maybe, but now to play devil's advocate to my own point. I actually think he should fight like that against Pereira. He should fight like that against Yoel Romero as well. It's the Marvin Vettori fights, the Jared Cannonier fights that I have the problem with when he fights like that, because there's so much more in there, and he's just putting on these boring displays and he's telling everyone he's this fucking killer and he's gonna be the biggest star in the world. You're not going to be a star fighting like that against Cannonier. Now against Pereira, no problem. If you want to kickbox with him and stay on the outside and kick the knee 48 times and win 50-45 and everyone boos you out of the building. No problem, because like I'm not going in there advocating for a guy getting knocked out or putting his body on the line.
Was there not a similar thing years ago with GSP where he took the safest route and was in boring fights because he didn't want to take damage to the head, and people were saying it was smart. And now with Adesanya, it's just fucking boring. But I know
people call GSP
some
boring.
people were calling GSP boring, but GSP was like, widely applauded and celebrated for most of his career. As
GSP had the Canada thing as well behind him, though. Like he had it's different for not necessarily McGregor, because there's everyone in America thinks they're Irish, but for Adesanya, he doesn't have like a pay-per-view buying country, but well, maybe they do buy pay-per-views, but like a North American pay-per-view buying country behind him, which McGregor kind of had with America, and obviously the Irish fans going over for the in-crowd thing, and GSP obviously had Canada as well and became a massive star there. Like Adesanya doesn't have that to back up. Like if Adesanya fights badly, people will get on his back. If McGregor fights badly and wins a fight, everyone will be, McGregor's the best in the world. If GSP fights badly and wins a fight, he's brilliant.
Maybe GSP was lucky that Twitter didn't exist for most of his or wasn't really that popular. He probably would have been absolutely fucking slaughtered.
Yeah, it's just because I think he's so good. I'm not sad, I'm disappointed with his age. That's what it is. So, but look, I hope it's a great fight. I've been hurt too many times, Graham. I can't get excited for another Adesanya fight. I actually think, maybe people thought I was joking about saying Adesanya taking the fight to the ground. I think he does. I actually think there's 30% possibility maybe that happens, and I think that could actually make the fight way more exciting, because Adesanya probably has the advantage on the ground, and maybe he could submit him. Andrew McGahan's always talking about Adesanya's ability on the ground being very good. Maybe it'd be a Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane type of fight, where he turns into NC double Adesanya, if we want to call him that, and wins the fight like that. So that actually impressed me a lot, and there'd be no giving out to me if he did that. So let's see. Anyway, the rest of the card is okay. Esparza versus Zhang Weili. Anyway, Esparza wins that. Surely Zhang Weili is just gonna pounce forward, land a lot of big shots, and win that fight. It's hard to see.
Yeah, if she just plays it smart, it's her fight to lose. Esparza is just gonna wait and hope she can get some kind of takedown and just do enough to not get stood up. And what she's gonna do. She's been doing it for years, and surely Yang will win here. I always pick against Esparza, and she's made it to the top again, but I'm going to have to pick against her again. Yeah.
Esparza can get takedowns. She is a good wrestler. She, if Zhang, as you said, if she goes too mad and she goes too forward, there definitely is a path to victory here for Carla Esparza. 5 rounds of takedowns, she can do it. I don't think it'll look like the Rose Namajunas fight. I don't think it'll be an outside fight for 5 rounds here, but it could be a different sort of boring fight, but the sort of boring fight as well where you'd applaud Carla Esparza for winning a fight that way, because that's her method of victory. That's the way she can, and that's the difference between her and Adesanya as well. Myself and Ian actually have a podcast coming out about this later in the week. Some people, they get the most for themselves. I think Carla Esparza is undoubtedly one of them. I'm not necessarily sure Israel Adesanya is one of them, but anyway, I suppose we'll see. But I fancy Zhang Weili there as well. Is Poirier versus Chandler a guaranteed banger? Surely, Graham. Surely.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be a really good fight. There's a lot of jeopardy here. I'm very interested to see how it looks. Both guys are exciting, especially recently. Both guys are going to go for it on the feet. It's going to be all action, high paced. It's going to be fun, and I don't think it's going to go. It's only 3 rounds. It's not 5 rounds, but I don't think it's going to go all 3 rounds. And if it does, it'll probably be really exciting and really close and an absolute war. But I think somebody's going to fall in the first round here, or maybe early in the second.
Oh, do you reckon? That's interesting. I could see that as well. I don't think I've
actually... Chandler just wants to make it a firefight. He just wants to go in there, and he's like, I'm going to take your head off, or you're going to take my head off. And I think Dustin Poirier is not going to back down from that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think the thing with Poirier, when he gets into those fights, there's moments in it where I think he probably loses it at the start, but he's a very good guy for kind of regaining that, getting a second wind. But having said that, 35 fights into his career now, Dustin Poirier, he's only 33 years of age. He's still a babby, but Charles Oliveira was a tough fight the last time out. He had the big emotion of the two McGregor fights. It's interesting because you look at Chandler, right? And let me just pull up Chandler's age here. I assume he's older. He is at 36 and he's had a lot of fights too, 29 fights. But it feels like he's kind of a new lease on life coming into the UFC. And you said there about the way he wants to fight in every fight. I think he does do that because like he said, and Bellator won't like this, but like he was like, oh, people used to ask me what I did for a living. And he goes, oh, I'm an MMA fighter. And they're like, oh, you're in the UFC. And then you'd have to go, no, I'm in Bellator. So I think he wants to
man. Do you not see Dave and Buster's that he walks in and everybody's like, oh my God, it's fucking Michael Chandler, the Bellator champion, man.
Iron Michael Chandler. yeah. But no,
it's Michael Chandler. Yeah.
Michael Chandler. I think he, I do think he wants to like leave a legacy for himself in the UFC. Will beating Dan Hooker and Tony Ferguson be enough for that? I don't necessarily think so. I think he needs to win this fight. I think this is a massive fight for Michael Chandler, and I think if he does win it, the UFC love Michael Chandler. I think they're paying him a lot. I think they'll probably push him towards the top again. So it's a big fight for both of them to be pushed towards the top because I'm sure they're both ranked highly. But yeah,
I think he's going to leave a legacy either way if he goes in with the kind of attitude he's gone in with so far in his UFC career. Like Dana White loves that stuff. Fans love that stuff. You can be forgiven a few losses here and there. You can be paid a little bit extra money if you're going in there and putting on banger fights and making Dana White excited. So it's probably a good plan for Michael Chandler. You're looking at that division and thinking, there's a lot of good guys in here. Maybe I can beat them. Maybe I can't. But if I go in there and put on absolute bangers, then they'll keep me around.
Yeah, it's a good plan until you lose 3 in a row and you're finding yourself back in fucking Bellator.
I don't know. I don't know. I think he's at a level that that if he's losing 3 in a row, it's going to be the very, very good competition. And I don't see the UFC cutting them anytime soon. Yeah, that's fair enough. Do you know what? We're going to talk about Frankie Edgar next week because don't undersell like the biggest narrative or storyline on the card. Can Frankie Edgar earn another deserved title shot?
I nearly made that joke the other day at 145, but the fact he's at 135 is gone. It's like, who's going to fight for the interim title? Oh, it has to Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett. No, it's going to be Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar against fucking Jose Aldo again, but no, he's fighting Chris Gutierrez here, and I don't really want to talk about this fight. It'll just depress me because I feel like I wonder do people appreciate my talk about Frankie Edgar from a few years ago now. I wonder do they still call me a prick or like?
No, you're wrong then. You might be right now, but you're wrong then.
I was right.
He went on to earn title shots, Sean. Look at the history books.
He went on to prove me right. Oh, he didn't go on to prove me right, but I don't know. Look, we'll talk about it next week anyway with Frankie because it's one way or another. It's going to be, something is going to happen. But anyway, so the rest of the card is pretty good. Why did I say Dan Hughes? Who's Dan Hughes? Dan Hooker against Claudio Puelles. Renato Moicano against Brad Riddell. That's a good fight. Dominic Reyes against Ryan Spann. It's a banger. Ryan Spann hits pretty hard. Can he knock out Dominic Reyes? If Dominic Reyes doesn't win that, he'd probably be winning the £1 million in PFL next year, which is like, I'd be throwing that fight if I was better off outside in PFL doing that. It would be a bit of crack. Oh, Meatball Molly's on this card as well against Aaron Blanchfield. That's a tough fight.
Very difficult matchup for her.
Yeah,
this would be a huge win for Molly McCann. Like she's obviously improved a lot recently and is on a 3-fight win streak, and spinning back elbow knockout, spinning elbow and punches knockout. She's definitely kind of come into her own, and she's definitely getting attention outside of the cage and doing media and doing very well for herself. And if she can go out there and beat Aaron Blanchfield, then she's definitely put herself in the title talk. But this is just a big step up. This is a very difficult matchup for her. She's going to have to make this dirty if she's going to win this fight, and if she, that's kind of her style, but she's going to have to really implement her game plan really effectively here. This is a really difficult fight for her, I think.
Indeed. I would tend to agree. So So yeah, look, pretty good card there. Karolina Kovalkiewicz on it as well, and a few more. So obviously, as I said, we'll be breaking it down in greater detail later in the week. Right, we leave it at that. Actually, one last thing that we go. You know, we often talk about like the business of MMA here the odd time, and the business of the wider world, I suppose. And just quickly, the Anderson Silva bout from last week, Graham. Did you hear about the pay-per-view buy numbers they're in? His opponent said
no. What were they?
His opponent said they did between 200,000 and 300,000, right? Which in itself is pretty low. Dave Meltzer, I listened to his podcast the other day.
Sorry, before you go on, how much was the pay-per-view to pay? How much did it cost?
I'm not sure actually. I think it was 20 quid on Fight TV. But maybe it was more in America. But I don't know. I got it free one from Fight, so I didn't pay for it. But so it was on TV pay-per-view and Fight over in America. Dave Meltzer said it did 30,000 on TV. And he said it did like about half the numbers of what Mr. Paul said it did. So, you know, somewhere between, you know, 100, let's say 150,000 pay-per-view buys, which is not great. So, you know, we've talked before about Jake Paul being a busted flush, despite everyone.
Do we know the story with, like, is Anderson Silva on guaranteed money there, or is
I hope so, because if he's not, everyone giving out to me last week saying
Jake Paul's talking, we're going to do 1 million buys and you're going to make all this money, and you know, hopefully that's not what happened.
You end up home taking 10 bob. Yeah, I don't know. I hope he is on guaranteed money. That's all I'll say about it. But yeah, the thing here as well on the MMA side of it, I wonder, does it make Nathan Diaz think what's next? Because if he goes into this, it's going to be pay-per-view numbers that he's after.
Nate Diaz won't be good doing anything for non-guaranteed money anyway. I'll tell you that much.
Do you not think so? Do you not think Nate Diaz will like try to back his own pay-per-view numbers and try to make money that way?
I think unless he's getting a sizable, very sizable upfront or turning up fee, he won't be doing anything. Like, obviously he'll want pay-per-view buys on top, but Nate Diaz is a tough negotiator. You know, we've seen it with the UFC. We've seen he's willing to, you know, stick to what he believes he's worth, and you know, he people may think from the way the Diaz brothers speak, or that maybe they're a bit stupid or something, but in terms of like the business of fighting, they've been, you know, a lot smarter than 99% of the fighters.
Yeah. I think it's really his only option at the moment. I think he kind of has to do it, and I think it will happen. But yeah, I don't think they're making massive money off of that. Although the way the UFC pay, they're probably.
I'm sure. Is there not some bare knuckle oligarch promotion somewhere or something that you can make a load of money off?
Maybe Eagle FC seems to be gone now. Like Eagle FC were doing loads of. And also, I don't think Khabib would be signing Nathan Diaz, but anyway, they were paying loads of money and they're kind of gone as well. So maybe that's to do with obviously the war and things. But yeah, they're not just. It's funny, like people advocate all the time for likes of Nathan Diaz and Francis Ngannou to like leave the UFC. Like where are these options, lads, of people making a lot of money? I'm not sure they exist. I also think now you can just like forget about.
Well, I'm sure World Series of Fighting would love Nate Diaz, but I don't know how much of a good move that would be for him.
Yeah, I agree. So it's interesting. But we'll keep an eye on this sort of thing, and we will talk about it, I suppose, moving forward. Again, the business of MMA is always one which is interesting. You know, coming up as well, like how far, we can't be too far out, I suppose, from the UFC renegotiating their TV deals, probably a couple of years. WWE and AEW as well will have theirs as well, in terms of I suppose the weekly sports entertainment sort of thing. So to keep an eye on all of them is a very wise thing to do, I suppose, if you're to keep an eye on the business of MMA. The Zone as well, the World Series of Fighting, PFL signed with the Zone. That's something we're going to talk about on the Chasing Pack, obviously. But you know, that's having said all of this, it's becoming dearer and dearer to be a fucking consumer of MMA. You need a VPN, first of all, if you want to watch Bellator. You're going to have to pay for DAZN if you want to watch PFL. The UFC doing pay-per-views here now, and forget about it if you're in America. You're paying hand and fucking foot, or in Canada and other places as well. It's becoming very, very near One Championship as well. They're charging pay-per-views and all of that, so it's a difficult and expensive time. Just BT is very expensive.
At this stage, you wouldn't really blame people for using streams, would you?
You wouldn't, Graham. You wouldn't, in fairness.
Sure. Or ordinary decent criminals, you know.
Ordinary decent criminals. In fairness, a bit of blue collar crime never hurt anyone. Is that blue collar crime? Is that the right one?
That's fucking illegal.
It's fucking illegal. Indeed it is. Indeed. Dana White. Well, actually, I put it into this podcast. No, I put it into next week's podcast, the Dana White sting we have with him saying like, you hacked it. You hacked into our website and now you look like terrorists. He said the website. I look like terrorists.
Wasn't the website hacked in by like a 13-year-old?
Something like that.
I can't even remember.
Absolutely hilarious. But anyway, we leave it there. We won't do our soccer chat this week, but we have an hour-long soccer chat with Ken Early. I know a lot of people know Ken, obviously from the Second Captains podcast, probably the biggest football podcast in the world, or one of them anyway. Absolutely brilliant stuff out of Ken. We talked about Man United.
The best football podcast in the world. Anyway.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. They talk about GEA and everything as well. So if you're not signed up to that, definitely do that. But
they don't talk about MMA though.
No, not about MMA. We asked them about that as well, and I was just looking to get myself booked on the podcast, Graham. To be honest, that's what I was asking him. But we talked about Haaland. We talked about Liverpool's downfall and Man United winning the league and the World Cup as well. You know, so it's all brilliant. So check that out, and there's loads more stuff coming to Patreon as well over the next while. If you'd sign up there on patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast, hit the subscribe button here wherever you're listening to this. Our YouTube has absolutely grown massively. Some great work from all the lads over the last while. Thank you to everyone for supporting that, and please continue to support it further. At SevereMMA.com on Instagram, at SevereMMAPod on Twitter, at SevereMMAsgram, at Sean Sheehan BA is me. And you can find all of our good work right there. Thank you to everyone for listening. You're a great bunch of lads, and we let you go with Graham's quote for the week. Graham.
I'll see you in heaven if you make the list. Yeah.
We'll see you next Sunday. Good luck.